What has been the impact of COVID-19 and associated lockdown measures on our consumer spending habits? In this video, I'm looking at new research out from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which takes a closer look at changes to consumer spending habits and also why wealthier households have received a COVID-19 bonus. Did you get yours? Coming up in this video. I'm Martin Bamford, a chartered financial planner at Informed Choice, and in this video taking a closer look at a new briefing note from the Institute for Fiscal Studies. They're looking at changes to consumer spending habits and also saving habits as a result of the pandemic, as a result of lockdown measures which we saw introduced across the UK earlier this year. And of course right now there is fear we're going to see even more lockdown measures. Cases are surging at the moment. We're seeing lockdown measures overnight in France and in Germany. So this study is very timely to help us understand what's happened in the last lockdown. We can also think about what's likely to happen in the next lockdown. The Institute for Fiscal Studies analysis came from the Money Dashboard budgeting app, so they could look at real-time transaction data and understand how we spend our money. It was interesting, they overlaid that transaction data with local health authority data too, so they could correlate the difference between spending habits in different local authority areas where there were different case counts, where cases were rising or falling at different paces. And the headline finding here is the IFS found that the spending recovery since lockdown measures were eased has been rather partial. Consumer spending has only reached around 90% of its pre-pandemic levels, even though the lockdown measures are more or less fully eased. Non-essential shops are now open. Many parts of the retail and the hospitality and the entertainment sector are open once more for business. But we've still lost about 10% of overall consumer spending post-lockdown measures being eased. They found that consumer spending fell by around a quarter when the lockdown measures first came into force and then started recovering again in May and again in June and July. That was when the non-essential retailers were allowed to reopen and also the entertainment and hospitality sector came back on stream. But when they overlaid this spending data with local authority health data, what they found was that there was very little difference in spending recovery between areas with a low case count and areas with a high case count. They were broadly the same actually, which I find particularly interesting, that our spending habits didn't really change regardless of how many cases there were in different local authority areas. And while total consumer spending remains below its pre-pandemic total level, the composition of our spending habits have remained rather persistent since the lockdown measures were eased. In other words, we are all spending a lot more on groceries, on our food shopping. We're spending more than we were pre-pandemic on grocery shopping. But the consumer spending recovery we saw around July for cafes, restaurants, eating out, that really has stalled and we're still spending an awful lot less on those businesses. Other findings in this report show that our spending habits changed in two big ways. One was a huge move to online shopping. So rather than going out to physical retailers, we're buying stuff online, and that has persisted post-lockdown measures being eased. And also we have largely abandoned cash. This was happening pre-pandemic already, where there's a move away to digital and contactless payments, but the pandemic has really accelerated that existing trend, so we're using cash an awful lot less. And the IFS found that even in August and September, when many businesses were reopened, cash spending was about half of its pre-pandemic levels, so the use of cash really going off the charts completely. Now, one personal finance consequence of the lockdown that I've covered before is forced saving. As a result of being stuck at home, as a result of many businesses being shut and we can't go on holiday, all sorts of things like that, we are having many opportunities to save money that we wouldn't have necessarily had before when we were going out and spending that money on all sorts of different things. So forced saving is a very real phenomenon that the IFS has identified in its research. But that forced saving is not being applied equally across society. Higher income households are certainly saving a lot more, and they're receiving what some are calling a COVID-19 bonus from this. In other words, they're spending a lot less, but their earnings have been broadly maintained, and that's because higher income households are generally more likely to be able to work from home, to maintain their employment, not be placed on furlough. Lower income households, on the other hand, have not seen a COVID-19 bonus. In fact, they are saving a lot less and they're taking on more debt to cover their higher cost of living. The IFS found that the poorest 20% of households in the UK saw an average dip in their household savings of £170 a month between March and September, compared to what the IFS would have expected to have seen. So rather than seeing a Covid-19 bonus, the poorest households here in the UK are actually seeing a Covid-19 penalty. And that's because their fall in income is not being entirely cancelled out by falling expenditure. How have your spending and saving habits changed as a result of pandemic? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Have you subscribed to this YouTube channel yet? If not, do it right now. I promise it will have an immediate and lasting positive impact on your happiness. Press that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.